Welcome, friends. Hey, we got another episode of Easier Ways going on right now. And this time, I get to introduce you to a friend of mine. His name's Hugh Osborne. Hugh is a person that I've talked to before, but most of our conversations really have been online. In fact, God, almost every day for a couple of years, there's one of us posts and one of us replies, and then there's, again, the conversation online and stuff. So we've known each other in the cyberspace for a few years right now. I know that, again, he's a therapist. He's been in recovery for over 20 years. He's a husband. He's a father. He's a person that I respect. But there's some things we're going to get in today that I am going to get to hear for the first time. So you're going to be like a fly on the wall if the two of us are sitting in a cafe right now, just kind of getting to know each other a little bit better. So welcome to our conversation, friends, and welcome, Hugh. Thank you so much for taking time out of your evening. You're way over in Europe right now, so it's dinner time right now, isn't that right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's coming to evening time. Got my family next door having dinner. I had mine earlier, so I'm, all topped up.
Yeah. Now Europe is Switzerland, is that right?
Switzerland, yeah, that's it. I'm from England originally, but living in Switzerland.
Oh, cool. So again, how does a man who's born in England, presumably raised in England, winds up raising a family over in Switzerland?
Well, I met my wife, who is a Swiss passport holder, while traveling in India, actually at the Osho commune in Pune. And we decided to make a go of it, and we chose Switzerland over the UK. That's how it happened, really.
That simple. And how long ago was that?
Ah, 20 years, 20 years next month since we met.
Well, that's awesome. And congratulations. And I know you have a son as well. You every now and then share images, the two of you snowboarding and such. That's pretty cool. Do you have any other children besides your son?
Not that I'm aware.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So yeah, so folks, again, this is me just kind of like, okay, I just want to make sure I'm been catching what he's been throwing out on Facebook and understanding it. And that really kind of leads into really some meat and potatoes stuff. There was a post I did about a week ago that I got a lot of great responses. The question was, how did you recover hope? Now, of course, it's very presumptuous. Not everybody has recovered hope and such. And no, frankness, I don't know. Public people want to say there was some people that were pretty fearless in saying I got no hope in the stuff. But Hugh's reply was, "That's kind of a long story, really too long here for Facebook." So I'd love to know, Hugh, how did you recover hope?
So how I recovered hope in my recovery was essentially I was about 3 or 4 days in, I think. No, sorry, excuse me, 3 or 4 months in. And I can remember walking through the streets of London, taking a break from work, and really having one of the lowest points in my life where nothing I had been living made sense, but I, I hadn't found where I was going to go yet, what I was going to do, and I hadn't really started looking. And the kind of feeling and the thought came to me, what is the point? Like, really, really, what is the point? What is the point in me being here? So, kind of on the edge of suicidal thinking, really. And the next thought that came, thankfully, was, well, if I can find a way through this, if I can find a way to make something of this, then at some point I will be able to help others do the same. And that filled me up with something. I won't say it filled me up, but it created a spark of something. Most of my life, I'd seen my mother, who was a therapist, who worked from home, her clients coming to the door and leaving, feeling more whole, complete, happy in themselves. And, I saw how that impacted her. So I thought, well, I could do something like that. I had no idea I was going to be a therapist, but just the idea that one day I might be able to help people come from this place that I was stuck in, even though I didn't know how to leave that place quite yet. that was an interesting project to me, and that was where hope started to come in, I would say.
Oh, that's wonderful. And how long ago was that?
That would have been in 1998, early 98. Um, it was, yeah, kind of winter months, cold, wet, and a pretty hopeless day. Hopeless day with hopeless thoughts, and then a spark of hope at realization.
Yeah. So my math's not so good on the top of my head, but that's well over 20 years ago.
25, I reckon.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I imagine there's been some water underneath the bridge of that.
Quite a
So
bit.
yeah, so inspiration came upon you, and it was basically a somatic experience as well. You know, again, it's in your head, it's in your heart, but it
Yeah.
seemed, again, based upon what you described, it was resonating in your body. Am I hearing you right?
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. And I would say the resonance was only a brief parting of the kind of normalized experience I had at the time of anxiety and depression. And, you know, it's a little bit like in Transformers, you know, when Optimus opens his chest and the Allspark is in there. For those who are familiar with Transformers, I am because I have a teenage son. So it was like something was in there, something was planted, and for a moment there was a release, and then it was, you know, back to yeah, dealing with the magnitude of what was at hand.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Again, not to turn this into my story, but I relate to that normalcy of anxiety and depression when it just seems to, I don't know, kind of diminish, melt away for just a moment. There's something that could be, you know, at least for myself, I'd use the word peace. And so again, the epiphany is in the head, but the peace is kind of just through my body. All of a sudden, now I'm not so on pins and needles at this moment. And
Yeah,
for myself, if I could do this once, it's very logical that this could happen again. And of course, random times it popped up. So it's like, what am I saying? Is it odd or is it God? I don't know, you know, kind of stuff. I just, again, I'll just kind of joke about it to diminish it and just go, no, this is something that's very much happening. And the frequency of it has increased over the years for myself. Has that been the case for you?
oh yeah, yeah, most definitely. I mean, at first it was just little brief moments of you know, respite or respite, I believe you say in the US. But you know, those moments are crucial. I remember Kabir, the enlightened rug maker, the sage in India. He once said something about reality coming to him once for 15 seconds and the rest of his life being in service to that. I've probably misquoted there, but it was something like that. So those little moments at first, you know, they're just gems that carry you through. And then gradually, as you peel back the layers, as you explore yourself more, as you leave behind the kind of momentum of the past life of addiction or whatever it is, then gradually they come more and more to the fore.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and again, my interpretation was that I used drugs and alcohol and sex and trying to control people, trying to prove that I was smart, strong, successful. All these programs for happiness was ways of trying to control and calm the misery, the anxiety, the depression, and such. And as those things were not as prevalent and not as intense, then that was when it just seemed to allow these moments to appear a little bit
Yes.
more. Is similar for yourself when you work. What I'm hearing is we work through this stuff, you know, when we confront our demons, or at least look them in the eye for a moment, then we start realizing that, well, they don't have to be as scary. And when we're not in that fight or flight, high anxiety situation, the odds are in our favor that
Yeah.
some kind of ease, some respite can come. Is that been your experience?
Yeah, certainly. And that gathered pace the more I put attention on examining my experience. So, in a way, I guess there came a time where I realized that there was a aware, conscious, um, clear, peaceful aspect to my being that in a way I'd not been aware of because I'd been so merged in the intensity of my experience. And so there was a time where there was this kind of essential, for want of a better term, separation occurred where I could see simultaneously um, my experience and what was unresolved still of that, which was still occasionally fearful, anxious, depressed, but also very much a backdrop of peace, clarity, being behind that. And that helped me to begin relating to my experience, to my pain, to my anxiety, rather than from it. And that's very, very useful and a very, very helpful stage.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
been my experience as well. And what you're describing is what people have told me is their form of spirituality, and I think it's the easiest way I've been able to communicate. It's awareness of our awareness.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Cool. Because all this stuff is such a mystery for me. I'm grasping for straws because hey, humans like to understand. We find some safety and some security in an understanding, but really, truly, most of life is we've taken previous experiences and our interpretations of them, and we're kind of trying to meld them into what's happening right now to come to a conclusion. And I've just kind of gotten to the part of it where I can be at ease is I don't always have to be right. I can be okay with the paradox, meaning, there's non-resolution involved in my inquiry. Again, as I joked around, I said, oh, I don't know. Just know that right now I'm okay. I'm actually got some joy. Where did that come? I don't know. Don't overthink it and lose the joy. Just experience it right now. So that's kind of, again, could be the whole inner dialogue that was for most of my life, the inner critic can now more be the observer. Is that what you're talking about also?
Well, the critic is an interesting aspect of our makeup, isn't it? And what I noticed with my critic was that when I stopped fighting it or following its instructions or trying to subjugate it or whatever, when I allowed its voice in with awareness, not turning it away, not making anything of it, that part of me had no idea what to do about that. It had no idea how to play out its usual game when I welcomed it in and saw it and didn't fight it. And yeah, that was a lovely undoing, I would say, of the critic, or the beginning of, because I still have a critic sometimes.
Oh,
But,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
It's, we don't have some level of critic. We might be a sociopath. I don't know.
Oh,
You're a therapist. I mean, would that be right?
oh yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I think sometimes my critic showing up is a good sign that my moral compass is intact. If I'm acting in a way that's kind of out of alignment or out of integrity with who I am, then yeah, that critic voice is most welcome, I would say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just again, you're not denying it and trying to defeat it and such. You're allowing that to happen. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. And in all frankness, this is the other post that we talked about. You'd done about a week ago talking about toxic spirituality. At least that's my words, not necessarily yours. But in regards for those that are listening, if you didn't see Hugh's post, he prefaces like, look, spirituality is not bad, healers are not bad and such, but you've observed that there are some people that when they're expressing their healing, their spirituality, that it's incomplete.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm going to do a poor job of trying to talk about it, so I'm going to shut up and kind of let you express what you did in that post, and then we can talk about it if that's okay with you.
Sure, sure, okay. Well, I think the first thing I want to say is that I don't post any of that stuff or talk about it from a place of completeness. You know, I'm still very much on my journey with regard to integrating stuff. I think the point of the post was that there's a stage when we kind of go on the spiritual path, spiritual search, if you like. And it doesn't seem to matter what form that takes. It could be yoga, it could be, you know, meditation, self-inquiry, whatever. But we get to that place where, in a way, we turn our attention inwards, and we come to that place of recognizing our essence, our being, and in that, our awareness of that kind of interconnectedness with life. Yeah. So in a way, there's a dissolving of the separate sense of self. Excuse me, just turn that off. There's a dissolving of that separate sense of being a little kind of individual me, the little me, as Eckhart Tolle calls it, and a kind of experience of emergence, which is what they call stream entry, I believe, in Buddhism. And so that place, beautiful place to reach, you know, of just recognizing that there's so much more to it. I can't put it into words, but there's so much more than what you previously conceived when the kind of usual barriers of the mind relax, and you know, you just experience yourself in that place. But then from there, there's a kind of coming back, a re-entry, you might say, into the little me with all of its problems, its issues in the world, and you know, from there, a integration process. And that's just my experience. That's the way it's gone here. That's what needed to happen, because when I found that place of beingness, I left a hell of a lot of my human stuff behind. And I noticed that, you know, I could kind of stay in that place of kind of just being, but stuff kept popping up, you know, old habits, old patterns, old fears. And in that place, I could examine those things and see that they, in a way, didn't leave a mark on my beingness. They didn't leave a mark there. There was a part of me that was free of them. But in a way, it just felt incomplete. It felt like I needed to, you know, go back in and actually use my spirituality, for want of a better term, what I'd realized, to become better at being human. And there were various people who guided me in that, you know, people who I, you know, found on social media, therapists I found who had, you know, gone a little bit further in the journey than me, who helped me kind of, you know, just come back into, you know, here I am, this multi-cell being with, you know, this experience of a kind of consciousness that is inclusive of all of that. And yeah, from there, it's been about integrating the addictive patterns, integrating the unhealed stuff. And what I notice is that a lot of teachings only take people to that place of beingness and kind of leave them there. And for me, that feels incomplete. And from what I see in most of the people who try to find completion there, is that they don't really find it. They don't really find it. They don't really find, the peace that was promised them.
Yeah, they're
Does that
still
make
on the
sense?
circumference of it.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And when I use the word toxic, in which again, people, that's my words, not Hugh's. Uh, but in regard, why I interpret it as toxic is because people, again, they've only gone so far in their journey, and they have found this bliss, this state of being that is where very, very good. It is very, for myself, again, very attractive. Okay.
mm,
But that's not it. And eventually it reveals that it's not all it. There's more work. And again, for myself, that's when the cynic and the doubter and again, the person that just has always long called it bullshit kind of comes back.
mm,
And I was very fortunate, like you, had friends around me who had gone farther on the journey and go, one, Randy, that's perfectly natural.
yeah,
My friend Dave said, he goes, can you have real courage without fear? And I thought about it. I'm like, no. Again, what might look like a courageous act, if I'm not overcoming fear, it's really not courage. And he said the
mm,
same thing. Could you really, truly have faith in something greater than yourself if you haven't doubted it? There must be doubts. There must be these, what some mystics refer to as dark nights of the soul going
yes,
on, which again is perfectly good. But if we don't have someone that can take us and remind us of it's just part of the deal kind of stuff, then again, basically, I would conclude that I would have probably just said, yeah, it's just been much more of my foolishness perpetuated. It's been wrapped in a different package and stuff, but it's the same old stuff, just with a different suit on. But it's, again, ultimately it's not. You just have to keep going on, and again, you have to do what you said is as far as integrating this in our humanness. As much, and again, I'll hear people saying we are God, we emanate from source and all this kind of stuff, and I don't disagree from that.
mm,
But all in all, we are also equally, if not more so, human, because we're interacting in our humanness. And
yeah,
so to and again, I bring this up because I've had that phase for me where I just wanted to deny my humanness, all the ugliness and failings and stuff, and thinking that if I chase this bliss, much like I did with the drug and such, again, it's very attractive to me, but I must have the descent before I can have any type of ascent. And now the thing is, it's not a one-time deal. It's kind of like looking, if anybody's ever looked at stock charts, price of the stock is up and down, up and down, and up and down. It looks like shark teeth, and stuff. And understanding that, yeah, that's part of it. But if you've made an investment for the long term, there is a slow appreciation in your investment. And that's for me been the spiritual disciplines, is looking like it's an investment in the quality of my life, having conversations with people like Hugh and some of others as well that you may have heard. And these are the things that help me, I don't know, have some level of balance to it. You know,
yeah,
I want to give what I've received freely. I've been given a gift, this new life, this recovery. Many people, if you're in recovery, yeah. If you've ever heard the Christians talk about being born again, it is nice, but when you see somebody who has gone from living an addictive lifestyle to one that has long-term sobriety and is living a relatively healthy life, that's a whole new person that is on this earth and such. And I want everybody to have that opportunity who desires it. It's never ever going to be forced, because I know it doesn't work until somebody wants it for themselves. But what I'm also getting is the expansion of this is those that may not necessarily be trying to recover from the garden variety addiction of sex, drugs, and rock and roll, but just the human condition. And we're seeking some type of relief from the suffering of life. Again, you talked about Buddhism. Again, Buddhists, correct me if I'm wrong, say all life is suffering. Is that right?
That's one thing that they say. Yeah,
Yeah,
life
yeah.
is suffering.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but again, what we're talking about here is the journey where it gets to be that there's less suffering and there's a little more joy, and maybe there's a balance of this going on. Am I understanding you right, Hugh?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, even if we don't have the kind of typical sex, drug, rock and roll addictions, most of us, not all of us, but most of us have got some form of unresolved emotional background stuff running, behind the scenes. Some of us have got trauma. Some of us have suffered adverse experiences. And so, for me, spirituality was just a way to deal with those things because I wasn't finding the answers that I wanted or answers that I liked in what was available to me in the UK at that time without internet. I just, didn't find what I was looking for. So that's why I went on the spiritual search to find the answer to how do I deal with those things.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm glad you did. But so anyway, folks, we're just sharing our experiences, and again, letting you know that we are far from gurus and such. But there has been some tangible evidence that it is worthy to go on these journeys, these again, self-inquiry, self-observation, having conversations with other people in manners that again explore our darkness as well as our light type of stuff. But yeah, there are some people that just want to focus on the good stuff. And yeah, they're just, well, God, back to the Buddhists, the whole yin yang thing and stuff. That symbolism is very much about this balance and such. And if anybody is familiar with this being in a flow state, and correct me if I'm pronouncing it wrong, Wu Wei, but that thin line between the black and the white of being in a state, but it curves, it flows, and it's very, very dynamic. But we get those moments where everything's okay. Yeah, there's chaos, there's confusion, there's tragedy, there's trauma, all this kind of stuff. But right now we can be present and we can realize all in all, it's okay. I mean, again, you're referencing Eckhart Tolle and the small self and stuff. That's my interpretation of the power of now. Now, are you familiar with his teachings and could expand on being present?
Yeah, I mean, I spent a lot of time exploring Eckhart Tolle. I think when I first discovered his work back in 2001, 2002, sometime like that. And yeah, for me, the power of now was a revelation. It really supported the experiences I was having in meditation, the experiences I was having with spiritual teachers, but he made it so palatable. He made it so that basically anyone could kind of get an understanding and get an experience. So I think he did really great work in that respect. And there are criticisms of Eckhart Tolle, and I've been one of his critics, saying that his teaching isn't integrated and things like that. But we can't be all things to all people. So I think Eckhart Tolle does a really good job of kind of holding that frequency of the now presence, um, having your attention here, resting in the moment. Yeah. And from there, you can take another journey. He doesn't talk so much about that. He talks a little bit about dissolving the pain body and things, but that stuff didn't really grab me. But from that place, you can take another journey. There's a in my experience, if you're looking for it, the right guide, the right teacher, the right book, or the right insight within yourself will appear when you're
Yes.
ready for it. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely. But again, you've got to desire it. You got to want it.
Yeah.
Again, much like recovery. But these little, again, coming back to again, these little moments, these little epiphanies where you realize that, okay, maybe there is something to this, and I can only describe it as it was found in the present moment. I wasn't thinking about the past. The regrets and the resentments seem to be less dominant, and those being projected into the future. My fears, my worries and concerns about the future and stuff were therefore also diminished as well too. If I could just listen to Hugh, or if I'm reading a book, listen to the author as opposed to reading it, and just actually was taught the process of reading out loud even when I'm alone. I'm listening to the author more than I'm trying to read to him. And so this listening with less opinion, and I guess when I'm in flow, I have no opinion. That's when something comes in. That's what I wanted to interject and stuff. This process, a simple way that does something that's beyond my language. Something happens, and we have that moment for reflection and a moment for response. Whether it's a conversation like we're having right now, reading a book, watching some kind of instruction and such, that makes it kind of go, yeah, that's cool. And maybe again, the response being is like, maybe actually I'm going to take this and test it. Maybe this actually has some validity for it. So what we've been sharing here, hopefully we've given you maybe one or two of those uh-huhs. Yeah. And what I'm hoping, again, for why I just brought this up, is maybe if you could just try to be a little more focused in a conversation or reading a book or watching a video. It's likely, if you're just starting, that there will be moments when you start thinking about, did I turn off the oven or whatever thoughts come and stuff. But it is a process. It's taken me a long time. Hugh's description here, again, this was not something that gave us immediate gratification. It was much more about a gradual trusting of the process. That again, life can change, and it can be bringing you closer to an inner peace. It just takes a lot longer than you ever expected, and it's a lot more ugly and hard. It's a much bigger challenge than some people present. That's what I wanted to bring into this conversation. My interpretation is, these are my words. Would that say it'd be similar what you wanted to do in that Facebook post?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the case for most of us. I do see people sometimes who, they did a lot of work on themselves, maybe a lot of therapy, a lot of coaching, a lot of spiritual practice, and then they come to this place of recognizing their true nature or beingness, and somehow they're settled enough to be able to kind of rest there, to be there, and to find a way of integrating from there. And some people like myself need to actually get the sleeves rolled up and dive right back in. Because there's a hell of a lot of work left to do, and to do anything else would be a kind of a bypass or a disowning, and that stuff never really works out well if we do it.
I've tried to frame it up as just those are reminders that more effort is needed.
Yes.
Again, I could intellectualize that, no, you're never fixed. But again, is my frustrations like, why do I have to keep on dealing? Why is this still coming up? I thought this had been put to rest. And again, just with having conversations, people like you, of just like going, it's okay, Randy. That's just part of the journey. It's okay. And I'm like, so getting to the final point. Yeah, there's very likely there's going to be unresolved issues when I draw my last breath. And again, that's what I want to say, is like the humanness. We do the work. We don't give up. We don't just resolve ourselves to say, okay, I'm a rude asshole. and stuff. That's just the way I was born. That's the way I always be. No, if you really desire not to be that way, you can experience a change. Maybe it's just the change is a less rude person. And I bring that up because I have my moments. But on the other hand, yeah, it doesn't mean necessarily that I am going to be some kind of Dalai Lama, Zen master, Mother Teresa, kind of in the moment type of guru person. In fact, probably been doing this long enough. That's probably not the outcome. The outcome again is a piece profound that we can look at our entirety, our wholeness, our humanness.
Yeah.
Again, is that right? Would you say that?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think there's, so much to explore there.
Yep.
Just to say,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. And we could go on and on, folks, but I know that there's there's things to do and life to live. So if you've enjoyed this conversation and you'd like to talk to Hugh a little bit more, how would people get a hold of you, Hugh?
I'm mostly on Facebook. That's my most active social media platform. So actually, if they go and hang around in your group for any length of time, they'll probably find me there commenting or, exchanging views. But yeah, I'm on Facebook. I post pretty much every day. There's my website as well, thehughosborne.com. You can find more information there. But it's mostly Facebook where I'm active and having conversations.
Yes. And there you go. And that's a good, if you just want to check him out safely from a distance, read his posts. You will get an idea, like I did before we started this conversation, of who Hugh is. That wasn't easy to say.
Well done for
and again, and if you're intrigued as I have been to wanting to have a conversation with him, he's very open. He's very transparent. Again, part of the reason why I admire him and wanted to have this conversation. So I hope that you've caught that during our time. But our time has come to a close. So again, thank you so much, Hugh. I appreciate you being with us. It's really been an honor to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you.